Hello, my dear friends, my dear audiences. Welcome to the East-West Show. Name is Jack Chow, hosting this show for years. Lots of pride. I mean, this is a privilege to sit here. You get a chance to meet all kinds of people. I mean, high-profile people with lots of knowledge that we can provide information to the community so that the audiences can benefit from. So once again, today we're touching about our politics. We're touching base in a general, broader sense about this whole nation. With me is my good friend, my brother, John Xu. He is an attorney in the law. That's general, sounds very general, but what is so special about him is that since very young age, he's been working with several presidencies on the Supreme Court for the judges and for their consultant group. And he is one of the proud members on that board. And he's been with several presidencies that he has accumulated himself like an encyclopedia kind of thing. He's now teaching at Chicago, right?
Well, I recently lectured at Chicago.
Chicago Law School.
Northwestern Law School.
Northwestern
in Chicago.
Law School. And we work on textbooks, several textbooks.
Yes.
One of them I learned that is on the U.S. Constitution.
Yes, as it deals with administrative law. That's correct.
Okay. To my friend John, welcome to the show, please.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you very much, and thank you to your viewers.
Yeah. And you make me feel very excited to get you here back on the show, but I feel heavy too because the subject today is heavy. We're talking about lots of people. The show title today is not my creation. Is a quote unquote from one of the email feedbacks of my audiences, and he wants to clarify if it is right or to name what we face right now a mystifying nation versus a unpredictable president. Right or wrong? How right? Why? Wrong? How wrong? Why? Like that. So in general, broader sense, you want to start with that?
Well, sure.
Please.
Well, first of all, again, thank you very much. It's an honor to be here and honor to talk to your viewers and have a nice discussion. The question about a mystifying nation, I think it has to deal with the times that we're in. You know, the first mystery is, honestly, a lot of people, especially in California and New York, they did not expect Donald Trump to win the presidential election in November, but he did win.
He did, yeah.
And he won the electoral vote pretty handily. You know, he won 306 electoral votes, and people have been complaining, well, but he didn't win the popular vote. And that may be true, but our constitutional system goes by electoral votes, and that's so every state is properly represented regardless of population size or regardless of geographic size. And the fact of the matter is, under the current system, Donald Trump won, and whether you support him or don't support him, you just have to accept that he won. And I'm a little disappointed to see the Democrats trying so hard to delegitimize his presidency. You know, so let me take it the other way. For example, let's say Hillary Clinton or even Jill Stein, the Green Party candidate.
All right, okay.
If either one of them had won and Republicans were protesting and publicly asking the electors, each state electors, not to vote for them, you know, and trying to delegitimize their presidency, I think a lot of people would be offended. They'd be very angry.
Same thing.
Yeah, and so it's the same principle.
Okay.
If you feel that it's inappropriate for people to contest the legitimacy of a Jill Stein or a Hillary Clinton presidency, then it's really not appropriate to do the same to Donald Trump. You know, he won very, very clearly.
Okay.
And just because you didn't expect it or just because the pollsters were wrong, that doesn't mean anything.
You mentioned about the recount, the general public vote, though. Even the recount to get some more votes.
Yeah.
Get Donald Trump more votes than previously counted.
Yeah, that's right. Jill Stein had asked for recounts in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and I think Michigan. One has to wonder, where did she get the money? Because she didn't have the money to run her campaign. She didn't have the money to buy advertisements, you know, so there is some suspicion that the Hillary Clinton campaign used excess money to fund Jill Stein's recount efforts.
I see.
But those recount efforts fail. And I would also note this fact, this is a fact, that while 2 Donald Trump electors switched their votes from Donald Trump to Hillary Clinton, 5 Hillary Clinton electors switched their votes to Donald Trump. So it actually turned out that Donald Trump was +3.
3 more. Okay, very good. You know, John, I personally do not have a stand in this case. One position on my side is that as a show host, I encourage the public to go by our Constitution.
That's right.
That when the Constitution says you have a president, legitimately voted and elected, and of course you have a president, no problem.
Right.
The other side of the story is that why would people get the impression that we are dealing with a mystifying nation?
Yeah.
The why?
Well,
where it came from?
I think it comes from the special interest groups on the left and other interest groups that may or may not be aligned with the Democrat Party, but people who are trying to delegitimize the Trump presidency from the very beginning. I mean, really, even before it started. You know, they were contesting the election in a way almost right afterwards, in November of 2016. And I really think that it's time for us as a country to accept the fact that Donald Trump is our president. And again, you know, like you, Jack, I'm coming at it from a legal perspective, an objective perspective. The fact of the matter is he is our president. And if you don't like him, or if you don't agree with his policies, then it's up to you. You can write a letter to the president. You can contact your congressman. You can contact your senator. You can even contact your governor, you know, because the federal government and the state governments do work together on many issues.
You apply your right to speak up.
Yeah.
Right? Say whatever, I dislike him or whatever. He should have done this,
right,
not that, so on and so forth.
Yes.
Good.
But rioting, throwing rocks, setting fires, hurting innocent people, flipping cars, you know, harming police officers, you know, that
not a way to do.
That is not constructive. That actually hurts their own cause when they engage in violence.
That's why I want you to come here to say that from legal point of view, this is wrong to do so.
Well, it's more than
it is the right way to do, even if you disagree, right?
Yes, and it's more than wrong. You know, some of the things that these people have done, like setting police cars on fire.
Those are crimes.
Those are felonies. Yeah, those are felonies. And you know, it's just because they didn't get caught or prosecuted doesn't mean that they won't in the future.
There is another way to look at it, however. There is no argument about what you talk about. On that level, you and I both agree. Plus, I do not even have a stand.
Sure.
I didn't support him. I didn't vote him.
Right.
That's my own choice, right?
Right.
So that doesn't represent the organization, the show, the whatever.
Sure.
Okay. Now, back to the old question, the starting question, though, there might be another perspective to look at it. If you look back into the trail of last election, though, even from the Republican side, it's not a landslide support to him.
That's right.
Remember, in the middle, almost towards the end, Mitt Romney kind of popped out.
Oh, yeah.
And with a huge speech or something, calling upon his party member, comrades to not support him. Right?
Oh, yeah.
So that could be also another factor. Could it be another factor that it drags even their kind of a fellow party members to think that way?
Well, it could be. I mean, that was almost a year ago. So it was March 2016 when Governor Romney made his speech. And I believe that it was very vicious. You know, it was a really strong attack on President Trump's character and his integrity. And I'm not really sure why he made the speech, though, because
no, nobody is sure, because we discussed it about quite a bit.
We did, you know, and if Governor Romney had decided to join the race, I guess that would make some more sense. But he never did. He was never going to join the race, and so it's not clear to me why he ever made that personal attack. It certainly didn't do any good.
All right, and plus, he knows his own weight.
Sure.
He knows his own size of his name, right?
Sure.
To apply that into a situation that misled or led, whatever, to an orientation,
right?
Certain orientation that, to my understanding, analysis, if you would help me, correct me if I'm wrong, might be one of the factors that played the important role in the definition of mystifying nation.
Well, it could be. I mean, I think, you know, so first, it's a mystery why Governor Romney made that nasty speech last year. That's number one. Number two, it's actually possible that when he made that speech, that it actually caused more people to support Trump than less.
Like rebounds.
Yeah, because, well, because Governor Romney, a lot of people view him as an establishment member. You know, he is a politician. But unfortunately for him, he was very unsuccessful when he ran against President Obama in 2012.
Mormon, right?
Well, the fact that Governor Romney is a Mormon is irrelevant.
Irrelevant. Okay.
Yeah, his religion is irrelevant. But the fact of the matter is that people do view him as a politician, whereas they viewed Mr. Trump as somebody who was outside the political establishment, you know, somebody who wanted to get things done and shake up Washington.
Okay. Right or wrong, it stirs up.
Oh, sure.
Stirs up, right?
Oh, yes.
And stirred up at that specific moment.
Oh, yes.
And if it's not dragging it into nowadays as one of an explanation why,
yes,
it could be at least something that did some stir at that very moment.
Well, it did affect the Republican Party. You know, the Republican Party was very divided throughout the whole primary process. You know, if you remember, let's say Senator Ted Cruz, Senator Marco Rubio, Governor John Kasich, who were all in the primary. I mean, they were pretty harsh on Donald Trump through the primary. Now, after it was clear that Donald Trump had won the primary, you know, even on election day, we saw Governor John Kasich, who is still governor of Ohio, and a pretty strong Republican. He had been a congressman also. But Governor Kasich did not vote for Donald Trump. He wrote in John McCain, even though McCain wasn't even.
McCain was not even on the list.
Yeah, and that to me, that's a mystery because I don't understand why you did that. If you don't want to vote for Trump, then don't vote for Trump. But to do something silly like write in John McCain, that just doesn't make any sense. You know, so the Republican Party was definitely not united on election day. You know, for example, former President George H.W. Bush and former President George W. Bush, I don't think they voted for Trump either. I think they were still pretty sore.
But they were there.
Yeah, but I think they were still pretty sore that Mr. Trump had defeated Jeb Bush in the primary. You know, Governor Bush had to drop out kind of early. He got crushed in New Hampshire. He got crushed in South Carolina.
Like a year ahead.
Yeah, he got crushed in New Hampshire. Got crushed in South Carolina, which is traditionally Bush country, and so he had to drop out a lot earlier than he expected.
Hey, thank you very much, John. Especially, I thank you for your affirmative conclusion that you have no other choice. But if you want to support him, okay. If you don't want to support him, you banned because that's Constitution.
Yeah, just follow the law.
Yeah,
if you don't like what his policies are, then you know.
That's why I get you here to get the say.
Yeah.
Get the say, the correct say, the professional say. Let's take a very short moment. When we come back, I'm still going to ask you those broader sense, larger issues,
sure,
a larger subject, rather than small one, because you're too big for certain points. I'm talking about general, right?
Yep.
Okay, great. Stay with us, please. We'll be right back. Hello, my dear fellow Americans. Welcome back to the big discussion about our nation. With me today is my good friend, a big friend, John Shu. And he is attorney in the law, but what most important to him is that even starting early age, he's been on the Supreme Court Judge Advisor Board for several presidencies. That accumulated him with lots of federal government experiences, plus his legal perspective. We want to get some answers from some issues that I got asked for, because some of my viewers sent me requests to have somebody explain why we're saying, lots of people saying, mystifying nation versus a unpredictable president. We had John explained why this nation is not mystified. It is clear enough that we have one nation, one president. And then the second part is that why would something still pop up, right? And then that comes to the partisan issue. Okay, talking about that, we laid that a little bit. Well, let me ask you, like I said, bigger sense, broader sense questions. In American history, has there been a situation at the inaugural celebration? There are, I believe, 60 members, Congress members, did not go.
Not to my knowledge, no. I think this is the first time. You're talking about the Democrat congressman who boycotted the inauguration, Mr. Trump's inauguration. To the best of my knowledge, I don't remember that many Congress people from a single party who boycotted the inauguration. You know, usually the inauguration is a time where the country comes together. We celebrate the peaceful transition of power. We celebrate a new president, you know, and so, I mean, let me give an example. Can you imagine in either 2009 or 2012, if 60 Republican congressmen had boycotted President Obama's election? Can you imagine how upset the press would be? Can you imagine the criticism? And that's the way it should be.
Okay.
Okay. If they did that, which they didn't, but if they did, they should have been criticized. And so I believe that because it's the same principle, the congressional Democrats who boycotted Mr. Trump's inauguration, they should have been criticized.
So you're saying that one among the two parties, between the two parties, one is more kind of like, how do I say? Is there a particular term?
I think that the media, and when I say the media, you know, I don't mean G&E or I don't mean EDI, but what I mean is like.
Oh, we never do things they do. Trust me.
You do things better. You do things better.
That's why I survived.
But I'm talking about I'm talking about the New York Times or the Washington Post.
Yeah.
You know, the LA Times. I think they generally give Democrat politicians a pass. You know, they generally give them the benefit of the doubt. And I think it's because the journalists who work there generally agree with the Democrats, so they find it hard to criticize them. And I think that's too bad, because a journalist is supposed to be as fair and as objective as possible.
All right.
And what a journalist is supposed to do is to provide the facts.
Yeah.
And so, but I do think that it is right now a very divided country. I'm a little disappointed to see that you know, there are people who are not working to bring our country together and to solve the problems that we have.
I do not have an answer of why they boycotted. Usually a bigger term or stronger term, or just say refuse to go, whatever, something like that. Yeah. I have no knowledge about why they do that. I recall two instances. 2008 election, John McCain.
Right.
The moment the winner was announced,
yes,
he called up.
Yes.
And he made a declaration that I fully support him.
Yes.
Right. And the same thing happened with Mitt Romney, 2012.
Yes.
When Obama won his re-election, and he did the same thing.
Yes.
Right. And they both are Republicans.
Yes.
And I did two shows for each of that instant.
Yeah.
And the audience gave a huge comment. Even some of my audience are Democrats. They are hard-deadly Democrats. They are strong-headed Democrat.
Yeah.
They still say, hey, that's good.
Yeah.
Thumbs up, like thing, right?
Right.
So is there a trend going, kind of like people play, like say, we used to say the rules of the game, right?
Yeah.
Okay, now, if we take politics as a game though, there's supposed to be a rule. The rule is that you win, I ban.
Right.
Am I right? Okay.
Well, that's the way it should be. But you know, for example, in the 2000 election, you know, Vice President Gore had called to concede, and then he called again to unconcede because he wanted to fight it out in Florida. And even then, you know, it took several court decisions and a Supreme Court decision.
So to concede, unconcede, whatever, you express yourself through the channel using the rules of the game.
Yeah, but I don't think Vice President Gore was following the traditional rules.
Wasn't he?
No, because otherwise he would have realized that you know, Governor Bush had won Florida and just, you know, gave it up right there. The same happened in 2004, where it was a similar situation where the people who worked for Senator Kerry, John Kerry, who was the Democrat nominee at the time, they just couldn't believe that he had lost Ohio. And they refused to concede to President Bush for many, many minutes.
I noticed just now you mentioned one thing by using a word, say it's a moment of a celebration.
It is a moment of celebration. Yeah. For the inaugural.
The way I read it is that from a poetic point of view.
Yes.
That I'm sorry that we had been separated because of the cause of election. We have to argue, we have to debate, well, we have to be different. Yeah. For the purpose of getting the right man for the job.
Yep.
Now the right man gets on the job though, let's unite. It's a call.
Yes, that's
something
the
like
ideal.
That, right?
Yeah, that's the ideal.
Is that something that reflects the Constitution, or the Constitution encourages the more on the contrary?
No,
the conflict part.
Well, the Constitution in you know, setting the inaugural and requiring a State of the Union where the President reports to Congress and therefore to the people. The Constitution definitely envisions, you know, one president at a time. The president has a lot of authority over the executive branch, obviously, but at the same time, the president has to work with Congress in order to get legislation passed. And the president and Congress, they both have to follow whatever laws that the federal courts, you know, whatever case law that the federal courts put down. In terms of the electoral process, if you think about it, because the Constitution has set out the Electoral College and where it represents not just the people but also the states, I think it's a very fair system. It's certainly much more fair than like Saudi Arabia or Yemen, you know, I mean, where they don't even have elections at all. So the fact of the matter is, yes, during a political campaign, each candidate from whatever party, you know, they have to fight as hard as they can and make their best case to the American people. But once the election is over, I mean, you know, the election is over. And
there are issues, for example, the email issue, right?
You mean Secretary Clinton's
Clinton email issue?
Yeah.
And swearingly, Donald Trump said several times that he would conduct an investigation.
Right.
Now we don't hear anything. So
right.
Is that the nature of things just for the lip service or what?
Well, I don't know if it's lip service, you know, because after the election, Mr. Trump had said that, you know, he would be willing to put the investigation aside in order to heal the country. You know, can you imagine this? If the Trump Justice Department started to investigate the email server and other shenanigans that Secretary Clinton allegedly was involved in, that would divide the country even further. I mean, whatever riots and stuff we're seeing now, there would be even more and even more violent. So I think right now, President Trump and his team, I think they're focusing on the economy, they're focusing on national security, and focusing on other issues that are important to the country.
But the moment he vows to conduct the investigation, though, was he able to realize that will divide the country?
Well, again, when he said he wanted to investigate Secretary Clinton's emails, that was during the campaign, right? But after the election, he kind of switched his position and said, you know, that's definitely not going to be a priority for the administration.
Prioritizations.
And I think that's the right thing to do.
Okay,
you know, that it helps to heal the country. It helps to bring people together. And I think, like I said just now, President Trump, I believe he and his team want to focus on the economy and national security. And quite frankly, you know, those are things that can't wait. You know, those are things that have to be worked on now. We certainly face dangers from terrorism.
I can certainly understand by the word of prioritization.
Yeah.
Because you have 100 things to do and you want them lined them up. Right?
Yeah.
And email might be important, and after the consideration or second consideration, okay, all right, that can wait. So
yeah, it can wait.
It can wait. Okay,
Yeah.
now I'll capitulate. With my friend John, attorney in the law and a consultant for judge, Supreme Court during several presidencies, we're here sharing his thoughts on some major issues about the nation. Somebody say it is a mystifying nation. No, the answer is not. And somebody is saying that it is unpredictable president, and the answer is no. He doesn't look that much right now, at least now. Let's take a very short moment out. Let's exactly go into his character or characteristics as Donald Trump himself, as a person, as a businessman, as president. Right? Shall we please? Good. We'll be right back. Hello, my dear friends. Welcome back to the show, East-West Show. Name is Jack Xiao. Today joining me is my big friend, Mr. John Xu, attorney at law, former consultant of the Supreme Court for several judges during several presidencies. He started that at even early age, and all these years he accumulated enough federal politics experiences to give us some guide, to give us some shed lights on several issues. I know I have a lot of issues right now, but he's too big for a small issue-to-issue subject. We're talking something in a broader sense. One of my viewers sent me email saying that we call this nation a mystifying nation versus a presidency, unpredictable president. So thank you for your clarification about the situation. And next thing, we move to Donald Trump as a person, as a man, as a businessman, as president of the United States. How do you feel about him, even in the early stage?
Well, you know, he's only been in office for just a little over a month. He has accomplished quite a bit, but I think he's also facing a lot of obstruction that most presidents have not. You know, for example, much of his cabinet and what I call sub-cabinet level nominees have not been confirmed. So, for example, you know, there's no official Deputy Secretary of Defense or Deputy Secretary of Homeland Security, or, you know, the Deputy Attorney General. And so I think right now the Trump administration is short on personnel. And I think the fact that the Senate, the Democrats...
Well, resignation, there are 11 of them.
Well, the resignations are mostly career staff. You know,
I see.
I'm talking about the president's nominees.
okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I mean, it was only today that Governor Perry was confirmed as Secretary of Energy, that Dr. Ben Carson was confirmed as the Housing and Urban Development Secretary. They should have been confirmed weeks ago.
Yeah.
I mean, it's insane that they had to wait this long.
Mitt Romney could be one.
Well, he was considered for Secretary of State, but that didn't work out.
Didn't work out.
It didn't work out for him. No. But I'm just saying that, you know, the president is definitely hampered by the fact that so many of his senior level staff, his cabinet members and sub-cabinet members, have not been confirmed. And I think it's terrible. I mean, it's just politics. It doesn't help the country. It's not clear to me how it helps. Here's another mystery. It's a mystery to me how anybody would think that just a wholesale, across the board delay of confirming the president's top staff is helpful to the country.
Delays the train.
Yeah, you know, they're not able to help the country if they're just sitting around waiting for the Senate to vote. And the Democrats have been very good at, you know, starting their obstruction process. They're doing it on purpose. You know, it's not to say that Republicans.
But the majorities are in the hands of Republicans.
Well, sure, but I mean the way the Senate works is that the minority has a lot of power as well, you know, to delay the process. The fact of the matter is, they know that eventually these people will be confirmed, but they're trying to delay it.
Is there a filibuster thing? What?
Well, not the only filibuster that's allowed now for confirmations is for the Supreme Court. It was Harry Reid, a Democrat. He's retired now.
Yeah.
But when Harry Reid was the Senate Majority Leader, he got rid of the filibuster and the 60-vote rule for confirmations of anybody except for the Supreme Court. And that's what I mean. I mean, the Republicans now, they have 52 senators plus the vice president if necessary. So the Democrats know that these nominees will be confirmed, but they're just trying to delay it to score points, you know. And I think that's a shame because it doesn't do anybody any good. They're not going to be successful, you know. Now what the Democrats will say is, well, we were successful in stopping Andy Puzder, you know. For the viewers who like Carl's Jr. Or Hardee's, Andy Puzder was the CEO of that parent group, CKE Restaurants. And the Democrats will say, well, our obstructionism stopped Andy Puzder from becoming the Secretary of Labor. But from my point of view, it wasn't their obstructionism. It was the fact that his ex-wife, the old videotape of when she went on Oprah to accuse him of domestic violence, that's what really hurt him. And the fact that he had hired, allegedly had hired an illegal immigrant to be a nanny and did not pay her.
That's not obstruction itself.
Yeah, it's not the Democrat obstruction. Andy Puzder did it to himself.
I see.
Allegedly, if the allegations are true. So again, it's not clear to me that the obstruction worked. You know, they tried very hard to obstruct Betsy DeVos as Secretary of Education, and it didn't work. I mean, she's now the Secretary of Education, and they said some really nasty things about her too.
And the other day I was having a good conversation with a friend of mine. He says that you should notice, or you should always keep that in mind, Jack, that he is acting in a business manner rather than politician. So I didn't ask him for more, but what is a business manner and a politician manner? Is there a difference, or should there be a difference? That's too big a question.
Yeah, well, there's a difference, all right. I mean, I think I think that I think President Trump, you know, he obviously has been a very successful businessman in the past.
Well, no question.
But he's had some ups and downs too in the business. But when he negotiates, you know, Jack, Donald Trump he's a New Yorker, and New Yorkers always think big. So you know, when they open up their negotiating position, they don't start small. You know, they go for whatever they can get, and then they negotiate backwards, because it's easier to ask for more than it is to ask for less.
I see.
Right, and then work forward from the negotiation there. So I think you know, the fact is that when he says, well, you know, we're going to do X, Y, Z, and everybody goes nuts. Oh my goodness, they're going to do X, Y, Z. Well, before you go nuts, why don't we see what the final result is first?
I see what you mean.
Because a lot of times in business, when you negotiate, if you say, well, for example, if I said, Jack, I would like to sell you my pencil for $100.
Okay.
Well, you would look at me like I'm crazy. But you understand that's just a negotiation tactic. And you say, John, I don't think that pencil is worth 100, I'll offer you one penny. Well, I know it's not worth 1 penny. It's probably worth around 10 cents, right? So we negotiate down.
Okay.
We get to somewhere 9 or 10 cents, and everybody's happy. But we can't start. We don't start the negotiation at 10 cents.
It's quite a brand new perspective to look at it. Honestly, John, I've been interviewing no less than 50 people talking about Donald Trump's character or characteristics, or anyway. Well, the bargaining chip, shall we call that?
Well, it's all about negotiation. You know,
the bargaining chip.
And our viewers, who, you know, any of our viewers who have lived in Asia or have lived in the Middle East, where those cultures are very much negotiation cultures. You know, if you go to a street market in Taipei or a street market in Shanghai or Shenzhen, believe me, you have to negotiate.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah,
right?
Yeah.
You know, so if somebody says, well, I'll sell you, you know, I'll sell you a bamboo fan. I'll sell it to you for 100 renminbi. Well,
you'll probably end up $5.
You better not pay
five renminbi.
You better not pay 100 renminbi. I mean, you'll make that guy happy if you do.
Yeah,
but you know, you want to say, no, I don't think that's worth 100. I'm going to offer you 5 renminbi and negotiate down from there.
To apply that philosophy or tactic into his 100-day plan, I believe I did a thorough study for that plan. There are 7 categories, and lots of issues there, one by one.
Right.
So lots of people taking that as a, in that case, versus what you're saying as bargaining chip, right? So are we right to take that 100 plan as bargaining chips, or are we taking that right by taking that as promises?
Well, the entire 100-day plan is in fact a roadmap for what President Trump would like to do.
In other words, it's not a bargaining chips.
The plan itself is not a bargaining chip or a bargaining position. It probably is the better phrase, bargaining position.
Okay.
But each subpart of it, you know, like I said, the president will have to negotiate with Congress, both the House and the Senate. And even within the House and Senate, the Republican leadership will have to negotiate with the Democrat leadership. That's just, you know, that's how politics is done. You negotiate. But right now, what I see, the difficulty is nobody is negotiating. All they're doing is yelling at each other and calling each other names.
Pointing fingers.
Yeah.
That's what they do now.
And
that's why I get pissed off.
Calling each other names. And that's not helpful.
All right.
You know, that's not helpful. If you want to negotiate, you say, well, you know, I would be willing to give up this if you were willing to give up that. You know, something along those lines. And again, I think that's where business people tend to shine, especially in the real estate business. You know, if you want to develop a property, you got to negotiate all the time. You have to negotiate with your vendors. You have to negotiate with the unions. You have to negotiate with independent labor, if there's any. You know, you have to negotiate with the city council and the mayor or whatever. You know, for tax breaks.
All the departments.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of negotiation going on and especially here in California, we have so many real estate developments, right? I mean, so people understand that even if you run your own small business, you know, let's say that somebody runs a very small bakery, you know, and it's at the end of the day, but he's got some excess pastries. But he can't sell them the next day because they're not going to be fresh. And if a customer comes in at 4:58 p.m. and says, look, those pastries have been here since 6 in the morning. You can't sell them tomorrow. They're $1 each. How about if I offer you 25 cents each per pastry?
All right.
And then the owner says, no, 25 cents is too low. How about 75? And then they both agree on 50 cents per pastry. That's a negotiation. Everybody wins. The guy gets his pastry. The owner makes a little money, maybe not as much money, but he doesn't have excess inventory.
Okay.
Right? So that's how negotiations should work.
Sounds very beautiful. My dear audience, today we're having a very nice conversation. And I know that John Shu is a big name, but the way we're talking is not that big. We're kind of very grassrooted ourselves.
Well, you know, one of the great things about this show is the ability to reach so many people, you know, and so many citizens who are involved in the process.
I have in Southern California that I know of at least 375,000 viewers for this show.
Well, I think it's great that so many people are interested in the political process, you know, and I would encourage you to, I really would encourage you to be as informed as possible.
All right, sure. Thank you very much. With your help, we'll be there someday, somehow. Anyway, I do not do what they do. So stay with us. We'll be right back. Hello, my dear folks, my dear fellow Americans. Welcome back to the East-West Show. I know for years we're trying very hard, me and my team, trying very hard to take every possibility, every possible moment to try to bring information to you, try to let you be as informed as possible, right? And me as a show host, I really take pleasure in doing so, especially when I'm joined by some wonderful big friends with a huge name, such as my friend John Shu. He's attorney at law. Sounds like a general title, but he's been involved heavily with the Supreme Court for the judges, for the 9 of them, and as a consultant during several presidencies. Stepping down to Southern California, he's still holding lots of high positions. Just now, about before we started the show. Oh, by the way, the show was scheduled to be earlier, 1 hour earlier, because he was called upon by NBC or ABC? CBS, by CBS. Sorry. For an interview over a Sacramento issue for email information privacy or something like that. Okay, anyway, like I said, your name is too big for small issues. I want to still ask you some broader sense issues, right?
Sure.
Okay,
my
now,
pleasure.
they claim to say that this president sounds easy to be upset.
Right.
So do you agree with that?
Well, I think people get that impression because President Trump is the first president to use Twitter as much as he does. You know, certainly President Obama did, but not all that often. And certainly not as often as President Trump. So it may be that President Trump is perhaps more sensitive to unfair criticism than others. But you know, President Trump has been in the headlines for a long time. I mean, I'm talking about like 35 years. You know, he's ever since the 1980s, and even before that. You know, he was always in the society pages or the front pages.
Controversial?
Well, some might say controversial, but you know, even before The Apprentice, I mean, in New York, Donald Trump is a big deal. You know, he's on the covers of the New York Post, you know, the society pages of the New York Times, whatever. So it's not like he's unfamiliar with the press. You know, so. And all presidents get upset. You know, President Obama used to get really upset about coverage that he felt was unfair, even from the liberal media, which I thought was kind of funny. Certainly George W. Bush was disappointed. I don't think he really got upset because I think he expected it, the unfair coverage. I think George H.W. Bush was the same way. You know, he was probably more disappointed than upset.
For 41.
Yeah, 41.
41.
Yeah, because you know most of the time, Republican presidents expect unfair coverage from the media. They just expect it. They know it's coming, and they try and deal with it. President Trump is the first in a long time who's willing to fight back. And when I say fight back, I mean fight back hard. Every time he sees something that he feels is inaccurate.
Yeah, that's exactly what people are saying about. Yeah.
But I don't view that as the president being thin-skinned. I view that as the president who wants the media to do a good job and who wants the media to report the facts accurately, not with any spin, not with any bias, but just to report the facts accurately.
Okay.
And so Now, some people might view that as, he's a little oversensitive.
And also there could be another factor that he is wearing or some kind of excessive burdens due to all these controversial point of views. Well, why people are more sensitive to what he does.
Well, I think people have been riled up for sure. I think a lot of these special interest groups on the left that are rioting, protesting, trying to delegitimize his presidency, I do think that they are riling up people unnecessarily. And a lot of times their facts are wrong.
All right, I have to hurry up, John, because I know your time is so limited. I have two major issues to touch.
Okay.
One is about his congressional speech that made a day ago.
Oh yes.
And two is about his immigration views.
Okay.
So which one do you want to talk about?
Let's talk about the speech.
Speech. Okay, good. Yeah. Go ahead with the speech, please.
Well, that speech was very important.
Was it?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It was the first time that the president was speaking
facing the Congress.
Facing the Congress.
Both houses.
Both houses. And both parties, all at the same time. Yeah. He laid out the policies that he intends to implement. He laid out some specifics, some generalities, and people can argue whether it was enough or not. But the fact of the matter is, he did both, and I think he did a great job. And then also, I think the speech was unique in that President Trump was able to appeal both to people's rational side, the intelligent side, in discussing the reasons why he wanted to implement certain policies. But it was also a very heart-tugging speech. When he referenced the young woman Denisha, who had grown up under terrible circumstances, but is the first person in her family to graduate from college. Or when he referenced, of course, Megan, the young lady who had Pompeii's disease. She was in the wheelchair. She was supposed to have died before she was 5 years old, but she was there, she was alive, and she was there to show America, what our healthcare system is capable of if it's, allowed to do its job correctly. And then, of course, when the president acknowledged Karen Owen, who is the widow of the U.S. Navy SEAL who was killed in Yemen. That, whether you're a Republican, a Democrat, a Green Party, a not so Green Party, how could you not feel that this was an American moment, not a political moment, but an American moment, that we are honoring a brave sailor, a U.S. Navy SEAL who died for his country, and then we are also honoring the sacrifice that the family makes. I gotta tell you, it's hard not to feel a lot of sympathy for Mrs. Owen.
Of course.
Her husband just died.
Yeah, of course.
And of course she was there to support the speech, and her emotional reaction. I think the president shared her emotional reaction. The president had met with her before. The president and his daughter Ivanka had made an unscheduled trip to Dover Air Force Base in Delaware to receive the caskets coming home. This president cares a lot about veterans, and this president cares a lot about the families of veterans, and especially the survivors of veterans who were KIA or killed in action. So I think it was a great speech.
Yeah, of course. There are many major areas he mentioned about. According to my homework, he mentioned the 10 big areas. Among the 10 big areas, there's the national defense budget.
Yes. Oh yeah.
The budget, and he lifted off the cap.
The sequester, yes.
Yeah. So, how do you read about that? His mind.
Well, I believe that the president thinks that a lot of our equipment in the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, Marines is outdated, and some of it is so old that you can't maintain it anymore. You have to get a new one. It's like if you have a car, for instance, that has 400,000 miles and it's breaking down all the time. It's more cost effective to get rid of it and just get a new car, right? Because it's too expensive to keep fixing. And so I think the president feels that our military service members deserve the best equipment that they can get. At the same time, when the president negotiated with Boeing or the executives from Boeing and the executives from Lockheed Martin to try and reduce the price of certain high dollar items like the F-35. So the president is not unaware of cost. You know, a real estate.
Oh yeah, that's well, of course. That's a very natural reflect. You're talking about. Well, of course, you can sequester it, but still, well, there's
Jack,
you're talking about it.
One thing that I think is hilarious and ironic. It's usually the Democrats who always want to spend more, right, and the Republicans who say, "Wait a minute, how are we going to pay for this?" So now that President Trump has announced that he wants to lift sequester and he wants to spend more on defense, now we have all kinds of Republicans saying, "How are we going to pay?" Or we have all kinds of Democrats who are saying, "How are we going to pay for this?" That to me is hilarious because they've never cared about how to pay for anything until now, and I think that's why President Trump is so transformative. You know?
So to use his negotiation skills to bring the price down is one of the ways to eliminate the cost.
To eliminate waste.
Eliminate the waste. Oh, waste. Waste should be the right word.
Overcost.
Oh, okay.
You know,
very
over-budgeting.
good. And also somewhere he mentioned about the PPT, Pan American TPP. I'm sorry.
Right.
And he claimed we lost about half of the jobs or whatever, and due to that fact, how you comment on that?
Well, I think the Trans-Pacific Partnership was a very unusual situation. Most of it was negotiated in secret. The Obama administration was, very strong on pushing that. I believe that the Obama administration thought that the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which was 12 countries, including Australia, New Zealand, but also Canada, which is not really in the Pacific. Maybe Vancouver, I guess.
All right.
But the Trans-Pacific Partnership was a 12-country multilateral agreement, and I believe that the Obama administration felt that it would be a way to at least perhaps put some limits or controls on China. And of course the Chinese were not happy about that.
Of course,
and I believe that President Trump thinks that instead of these huge multilateral agreements, where, look, to get 12 countries to agree on anything is almost impossible, that it's better to have bilateral agreements, maybe trilateral agreements, and I think the president believes that the best way to look out for American trade policy is to have fewer of these huge multilateral agreements.
Okay, very good, very good. Okay, now that's probably the head of the nail. So do we have more of a benefit or interest in the Pacific region, or do we not? Or are we doing the right thing to go ahead, claim or enhance on that, or are we backing up from that?
Well, the United States certainly has a lot of interest in the Pacific region. Everybody points to Taiwan, of course, but we have an interest in keeping the peace in Korea. That's why we have troops in South Korea. We have had troops in South Korea since 1950. We still have bases and troops in Japan. We have advisors in other Asian countries like the Philippines. We work very closely with the New Zealanders and the Australians, militarily and trade-wise. So we certainly have interests in the Pacific region. Now, so does China. I think China's biggest concern about the South China Sea and the Straits of Malacca is to keep shipping lanes open for oil, right? Because China is a huge consumer of energy. They consume coal, they consume oil, natural gas, and they can't get it all domestically. They have to import it, whether it's from the Middle East or from Africa or wherever, Venezuela, wherever. But they need those shipping lanes to stay open. And I think their main concern is, what if, say, Russia or the United States or Japan or some other country shuts down those shipping lanes? Now they're not going to have any oil or energy, and now they're going to be in a lot of trouble. So that's why I believe that the Chinese government has been so aggressive in the South China Sea.
Do you think that the United States really has interest in the South Asian Sea, South China Sea?
Of course.
In what sense?
Well, the United States is probably China's largest trading partner. a lot of American companies manufacture stuff in China. You know, and
not much of territorial stuff, right?
well, but you know, there are the three the Shanghai communiques. You know, where we have you know, an unclear commitment to Taiwan, the Republic of China. We do have, you know, a strong ally relationship with Japan and South Korea, and you know, we also have an ally agreement with India.
Under the status quo that's supposed to remain, though, U.S. do not or does not have a territorial issue to claim.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yes, the
right?
United States does not have specific territory.
Yeah, you're right.
But it does have the Northern Mariana Islands and Guam.
Okay, of course.
Yes.
That's existence there and still there.
Yeah, so
right?
Guam, but that's in the Pacific region. So Guam and the Northern Mariana Islands are, in fact, you know, U.S. territories. They've, you know, any legal cases that come from there are actually heard here in California, either in San Francisco or in Pasadena, because Guam and the Northern Mariana Islands are part of the Ninth Circuit. So we have some territorial concerns over there.
Very good.
And our U.S. air bases and army bases in Korea and Japan, that's sovereign U.S. soil. So in that respect, we do have, you know, smaller territorial concerns in terms of sovereignty within those countries, and obviously the United States and the Philippines.
How do you see the conflict, possible conflicts, or anyway, in between United States and China?
Well, ideally, we wouldn't have any conflict at all, and I'll tell you why. The fact of the matter is, you know, we, in a lot of ways, the United States needs China as an economic partner, and
vice versa.
Oh yeah, even more so. The Chinese need us more than we do.
Yeah, vice versa.
And but the Chinese also need the Europeans. They need the African Union. You know, it's an interconnected world, and so the fact of the matter is, I think, at least for China, China needs to maintain a certain amount of economic growth, or it won't be able to feed its own people.
All right.
And or the citizenry, which there are a lot of people who live in China, they're going to get upset.
Okay.
You know, and so the fact is that the Chinese need to keep a certain amount of economic growth. The only way they can do that is to partner with the Western economies. And the fact of the matter is, Jack, I believe it is too expensive to go to war.
Yeah, better not to.
There's too much to be lost.
Better not to. Yes, yes.
It's you know, war is a situation, and I think one thing that I think a lot of people misunderstood when President Trump talked about making a strong military so that you don't have to use it, I think people didn't understand what he meant. And what he meant was, there's an old saying that if you want to have peace, you have to prepare for war. And the idea is that you have a military that is so strong and so feared that nobody wants to go to war with you. China's doing the same. You know, they're building up the People's Liberation Army, the People's Liberation Army Navy, you know, because they want to have a strong military that nobody would bother to attack China. The Russians do the same, we do the same, you know, and
that's universal.
It's universal.
Ever since history.
Well, the Romans came up with that phrase, you know, if you wish for peace, then prepare for war.
Prepare to war, okay, very good.
And
okay.
you hope
That's why you fight for peace.
Right, but you hope you have these strong militaries,
okay, very good.
And you hope that you never ever have to use them.
All right, thank you very much, John. I really wish we have a 100 minute in a minute, a 100 minute in an hour.
Well, thank you for having me, and thanks for your
well, I will ask my editor to cut myself off, all right, if we're out of time. So, my dear audience, thank you very much for watching, and I hope that we have brought you enough information to keep you informed. And to John, thank you very much.
Thank you, Jack.
And also for getting here in a hurry after your first back-to-back. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.